All right, finally, without further ado, we've beaten the technology snafu somehow, some way. But anyway, here he is, the man of the hour, the one, the only, Mr. Randy Blythe. How you doing, Randy?
Oh, I'm all right. How are you?
Good, good. God, I mean, technology, it can be such a beautiful thing and such a horrible thing at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this experience basically encapsulates the way I feel about it in general. it can be great if used correctly until something screws up.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's panic mode.
Yeah. So, shall we?
So, well, you've added something to your resume. As many people know, you are the lead singer, the front man of the band Lamb of God. But now you are also author.
Yes.
And I'm sure you would have preferred to have the title author in a different circumstance.
Yeah, absolutely. The events that caused this book to come about are ones that I wish had never occurred, obviously. I'd rather just not have a book that has to be about this, but, there's no way to go back and change the course of history, and I can only try and do the best with the hand I'm dealt, try and do the right thing for the right reason. So here we have a book.
Here we have a book, and it's kind of funny. I've talked about this subject many times on the show, and actually we had the actress Blythe on last week, and I was just talking to her about this topic last week, and being the fact how I am deathly afraid of traveling outside of the country for a reason almost like yours, where you end up being put in jail. And
right.
I'm scared of jail here in the States, let alone in another country.
Right. Well, yeah, jail isn't fun anywhere. I mean, I've been locked up in America a few times, just overnight drunk tank stuff.
Right.
I'm not a career criminal by any sense of the term, but it's something different to go to prison in a foreign country. It's a pretty scary experience. It definitely. Anytime I'd ever been locked up before, I woke up with a hangover, and I'm like, oh, God, you idiot. Why'd you do that, whatever you did the night before? This time I woke up in a jail in the Czech Republic, and I was like, holy crap. The whole thing was pretty surreal.
Yeah. And this time there was no hangover.
No, there wasn't. I've been sober for a few years, thank God.
Right.
I'm so glad I was sober, because that enabled me to handle the whole situation with a clear head. Had I still been drinking or, sleeping off the after effects of a good night of drinking, I had no idea what would have happened when I got arrested. Possibly could have added resisting arrest to the charge they had against me, and that's not something you want overseas.
No, not at all. Now, what actually happened was, for people that don't know, is I guess you guys were on tour there 2 years prior?
Yeah.
And a fan jumped up on stage and you pushed them off?
Well, to the best of my knowledge, that is what occurred. Nobody really knows what occurred, because I have no clear recollection of this young man. I have a clear recollection of interacting with another young man who jumped up on the stage, he kept on jumping up on the stage. There were several people on the stage that night. But this one other young man kept on getting up on stage. He was really drunk, and finally I wrestled him down to the ground on the stage and kept on singing in his face. But that wasn't a young man who unfortunately was injured and died, because he showed up at my trial and testified on my behalf. All these people were saying, they were saying, Randy was up there beating all these people up, and this guy, everybody thought there were some pictures of me on top of this young man who I'd wrestled with, and they were in the Czech newspapers, and they were like, with lurid headlines, things that read, the death grip and so forth, as if I'd been on top of this guy choking him to death. And this young man saw this in the news when I was arrested and called the police. He's like, "Wait a minute, no, I'm not dead. I'm alive. That's me. That's not the young man who died." So he showed up and at trial said, "I was really drunk. I kept on going on stage, and I knew I shouldn't have been." And he said that Randy didn't choke me or hit me or kick me or punch me or any of those things, because I didn't. So,
right.
I mean, I only have, to the best of my knowledge, what I think happened, and that is that at the end of the show, for some reason, this young man jumped on stage, and I turned around and saw him and pushed him away, and he went off the stage, fell and hit his head and went into a coma, and then unfortunately and tragically died a month later. The whole thing was super dark. So that,
right.
But I have no memory of that happening. And we never knew after that night. It's not like we fled Prague or anything. We had no idea anyone had been injured, much less anyone had died. We stayed, for several more hours in the parking lot and then left.
Right.
And then no one ever contacted me from the Czech government, the American government, no one. So we booked another show in Prague. And it happened to be 2 years later when our next tour routing worked there, and we showed up, and I got off the airplane. We flew in from Norway, and we were like, cool, it's a day off in Prague. We're going to play the next day. Today I'll just go cruise around to the Charles Bridge and do some sightseeing. And at the end of the runway, there was a SWAT team. There's, 5 guys with machine guns and face masks and 3 big burly, like, Eastern Bloc-looking private detective or plainclothes detectives, and then a female head detective, and they handed me a piece of paper when I got to the end of the runway that said, "We're arresting you and charging you with a manslaughter, which carries a 5 to 10 year sentence." And off I went to prison. Yeah, boom, like that. The whole thing was really surreal. I had no idea it was happening.
Were you, when you saw them at the end of the runway, were you kind of like, oh, I wonder what's going on? I wonder who they're here for?
Well, I write about it in the book, in my book, Dark Days. I got off the end of the runway, and they were kind of moving my band to one end of the runway because they were checking passports on the jet bridge, which is unusual. Normally, you check your passport at customs once you're through and get your baggage and all that stuff. So, they were checking passports, and I noticed they were ushering my band and myself to this small room to the right. And I get in there, and I see all these guys with guns, and I actually laughed out loud. My bass player was already in there, and I laughed out loud, and I'm like, someone is in trouble, And I was laughing. I'm like, oh, there is someone in big trouble right now. And I started singing Kool and the Gang. I was like, there's a party going on right here. And he was like, no, dude, there's no party going on. This is serious. And very swiftly, it was like, whoa, they're here for one of us. And then, whoa, they're here for me. I mean, it was completely just, it was very shocking, to say the least.
Wow.
To go from, oh, I'm going to have a good day off on tour in Prague to off I go to prison. It was, it happened very, very swiftly. So I had to kind of process things pretty quickly. And that, I was incarcerated for 37 days in a 123-year-old prison. It was pretty crazy. I paid bail twice before they would let me out, because in the Czech Republic, I was granted bail, which we borrowed from our record company. It was amounted to almost $250,000. So we borrowed that and paid that, and then the prosecuting attorney objected, and he said, no, that's not good enough. I object. So they're like, well, okay, your bail's no good. We have to take this to an appeals court. Then it went to an appeals court, and then they said, okay, we'll honor your bail, but now it's double. So then we had to borrow another, In the end, it was almost $500,000 we paid in bail. And then they objected to that. So it was just, I was in there for over a month until finally an appeals court said, okay, his bail is good. And then they hustled me out of the country real quick before the prosecuting attorney found out. Otherwise, he would have objected again, and I would have been back in prison. So it was just a very confusing time.
Now, you had mentioned earlier on about like the press and how they had the pictures of you on stage with the one guy wrestling him down. So it sounds like the press was making you out to be this murderer.
Yeah,
all
absolutely.
along, and you didn't even have any idea, which is even crazier.
No, I had no idea. So I mean, after I was arrested and I was in prison, the Czech tabloid media, some of the Czech newspapers were a little bit more objective about the thing, but the number one selling newspaper in the Czech Republic is a paper called Blythe, and it's the equivalent of basically the National Enquirer.
Okay.
So it's very tabloid, very, very Brad and Angelina Jolie type stories, but in the Czech Republic or whatever is shocking. So this particular paper, it's the number one paper there by far. It's the most read paper. Was printing all this stuff. There was all this stuff, some paper said I had murdered some woman. Another paper said I kicked some guy to stage to death in the head on the stage. It was all just a bunch of nonsense.
Right.
Like just designed to be shocking and sell papers. But in the meantime, I'm stuck in prison. So, but I didn't really even know a lot of that until later because I can't read Czech. My lawyers would say, well, the press isn't looking too good for you over here right now, when I'd meet with them in prison. And what do you mean? Well, they're saying you murdered all these people. I'm like, Jesus, It was just, it was frustrating, to say the least, because I couldn't really communicate with anyone.
Now, when you were in prison for 37 days, like, did it ever, which I'm sure it probably did, like, did you ever think to yourself, like, I am never getting out of here?
Well, I knew that the maximum sentence they could give me was 10 years off. The crime that they had charged me with carried 5 to 10 years. No time off for good behavior, right? But the thought came into my mind that if I was convicted, or even before then, that I might die in prison, because people die in prison.
Right.
It's just a fact of the matter. The prison I was in the year before, there was a riot, a planned riot, a 5-prison-wide riot across the Czech Republic that was foiled. Luckily, it got exposed. That was designed as a protest against the living conditions there, because the prison I was in wasn't fit for human habitation. It's really old, and I don't know about the rest of the prisons, but I know that the Czech Republic has been chastised by the European Union for the state of their correctional facilities. So there was a riot the year before that was being planned, and somehow someone got wind of it and busted it up. But they found hundreds and hundreds of stabbing and shanking weapons that prisoners had made stashed throughout the prison. So, I mean, I knew I could survive 10 years in prison. I wouldn't kill myself or whatever, but you never know what's going to happen while you're in there.
Right.
So, I mean, and if a riot had busted out, I don't speak Czech. What am I going to do? Like, stuff started catching on fire, people are stabbing each other. I wouldn't know what I was doing except for put my back against the wall. So, there were a few times that I definitely thought, I could die in this place, especially if I get convicted, and I'm here long enough, because bad things happen in prison. But in general, man, I really tried to keep a positive attitude and stay focused on getting out of there rather than sit there and start thinking about, I'm going to be here forever or whatever. It didn't do my internal being any good to be all morose.
Right. No, I mean, and also too, like you said, like nobody. I guess there was really nobody that spoke English. Communicating.
There are a couple of people, a couple of prisoners.
Okay.
There was one guy. There was one native English speaker. He was from Ireland, and I met him. He had been in the prison for 6 months and hadn't even been charged yet. It was he was a businessman. It was some sort of embezzlement charge he was on. And then there was one other guy who spoke pretty fluent English. But other than that, the other people that spoke English, it was really mangled, really broken, and the vast majority of the people in there spoke no English. So it wasn't easy to communicate with anyone.
Now, you like you said, after the bail was finally paid and you were able to get out of there and you came back home, couldn't you have just said, "I am never going back there. I don't care about a trial or nothing"?
Sure, I don't think the America has an extradition treaty with the Czech Republic, but I highly doubt they would have extradited me. I sincerely doubt. The American government, when this young man died, the young man's family went to the police and asked for an investigation, as they rightfully should have.
Sure.
Their kid was dead. They wanted to know what happened to him. So the Czech government contacted our Justice Department, and our Justice Department, for whatever reason, said, the Czech government contacted them and said, look, we want to investigate this guy on a possible manslaughter charge. And our government said, no, we're not going to cooperate with this. I don't know if they thought it wasn't warranted because it was kind of ridiculous the way the whole thing was described. There was a lack of evidence. I don't know why, but they refused to cooperate with the Czech government in any sort of investigation. But my government never informed me, hey, you're wanted for manslaughter, by the way, in a foreign country, which would have kind of been nice. I pay a lot of taxes. If the IRS can find me and our Justice Department can't, America is in big trouble. But I really, I could have just stayed here. Really, if they weren't going to cooperate with an investigation, I don't think they're going to extradite me. It's ridiculous, especially given all the negative attention that they got over the fact that they didn't inform me of any of this stuff. So yeah, I could have stayed in America. I'm pretty positive.
Dude, that took a lot of balls to go back there and to go through a trial.
Well, as I said, when I said, this young man's family, his parents, they just want some answers as to what happened to their son. And they never once came at me in the press. They never once came at me in court or in private. They never attacked me in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
They were just immensely strong people. They just wanted some answers.
Right.
As to what, yeah, and it's even though I don't have any clear memory of this young man, and to this day I don't, only have what I think happened. I wanted some answers too, and if I held any responsibility in this matter, and that could have come up in court, then I don't want to run from that. It's not like I'm running. It's not like, as a Virginian citizen, I got a speeding ticket in Ohio and didn't decide to pay it. This is serious. This is someone's life. This really destroyed a family. So if there's some way I can at least help them get closure, or if in fact some evidence came up that made me aware of something that I wasn't aware of, then, I got to take my lumps and be a man about it. I can't face myself in the mirror and say, you're a good dude if I killed someone and didn't, face judgment. It's a serious thing, And this young man, we were his favorite band. We were the last thing he ever saw. You have to kind of look at it and put it in perspective. It's very, very serious, very tragic. It rips me up to this day. So I don't know. I just felt ethically compelled to try and get them some answers.
Dude, you are a stand-up guy to do that. You really are, man. You should be like, I think people really need to, I'm sure probably 80 to 85% of people in this world that happened to, they would not have gone back.
Well, you don't know. You don't know until, people say that a lot when I if they hear my story. And that used to make me think, oh, that kind of sucks because it seems like the right thing to do. But the fact of the matter is, you don't know what's going to happen and how how your gut is going to speak to you until you're in that situation. You know, it's not like it was just one day I woke up and it was everybody handled me all this information and I made an A or B decision. It was a process.
Right.
You know, it was a whole process of looking at the situation, looking at the available evidence, looking at, you know, what I knew, what I didn't know, and saying, okay, you know, this is what I need to do. This is what my heart tells me I need to do. So when people say that, I think people sell themselves short because you never know what you're going to do until you're in someone's shoes. So, I mean, I try and think that way, you know, and keep a positive attitude about it.
Wow. Now, do you think, or I mean, I would think somebody would want to make this into a movie.
Yeah, I mean, there's been talk of that. It's kind of custom made for a movie. I'll see if that happens. It would have to be the right person to do this. I would have to have pretty big trust in them to take this and turn it to a movie without glamorizing it or sensationalizing it and stuff, because you know, I wrote the book in a very factual manner and tried to be as sensitive as possible to the situation and all the people involved, and I try to do some good with the book, you know, there's a couple of things in there where I think there's some things in my experience that might help some people, you know, because that's what I try and do, is learn from other people's experiences now instead of just learning from my own mistakes so much. But I'd really have to trust whoever was going to make a movie to make it the right way, because if I gave the story to some Yahoo, you know, the money is not really what matters to me. I mean, I can make a living. I don't have to be a bazillionaire. But some guy from Hollywood who's going to make some sort of sensationalized thing, I don't need that, you know. It's a very serious situation to me. And I wrote the book in order to explain what happened exactly, and I don't want there to be any misconceptions, because during the whole thing there were so many so much misinformation got out. In America, most of the people who were finding out information were finding it out via Google Translate of checking news articles. Yeah, all that stuff.
That's where I was hearing it all about. It was through Blabbermouth.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there were a couple of websites that really tried to dig deep and evaluate things, not either pro or con me. Just try and really look at it and evaluate the information that they had. And one of those was the Gauntlet. They really carefully looked at things and tried to dissect it. But even so, there's only so much information available, you know. So there's just a lot of crap. And by the time I got out of prison and I opened up the computer and I checked for the first time, I Googled my name and I was like, oh, holy crap. You know, it just flooded with posts about all this different stuff, and I'm just like, man, you know, even I don't know what's going on. How is somebody, you know, back in America supposed to know what's going on with so little information? So, any sort of movie that would be made out of it, I'd want it to be made right. So, we'll see if that happens or not. You know,
who would you want to play the part of you?
Brad Pitt.
I knew you were going to say that.
No. Actually, this might present a challenge, but screw it. I think he's up for it. I'd want Morgan Freeman to play me. Cause
I thought you were going to say Jamie Foxx.
No. Morgan Freeman has the best voice, and I know the whole different race and age thing might get in the way, but he's a great actor, and he has the best voice in the world. You know? Maybe I could just hire him to do the audiobook version. You know?
Hey, is there going to be an audiobook?
Yeah, I hope so. I'll narrate that myself. It'd be nice to have Morgan Freeman to do it, but yeah, I'd be doing that myself because I try to maintain my own voice through the writing of the book. And, I wouldn't trust, just like I couldn't really trust anyone to co-write the book. I wrote the whole thing myself because,
right.
I don't know of any co-writers who could even hope to understand the situation I had been in, so I wrote it myself.
Right.
I don't think anybody could have written convincingly about it because I really don't know anybody else who's been in my situation.
Sure.
Anyone. So for an audio thing, I think, if I can't get Morgan Freeman, I'll have to do it.
Just have him throw it. Didn't he did that kid's book, didn't he? Go to Fuck to Sleep or something like that?
No, that was what's his name from Pulp Fiction? Samuel Jackson.
Oh, okay.
Morgan Freeman did Shawshank Redemption. He's a older black gentleman with an amazing voice.
Gotcha. That's awesome. Now, you also have the new Lamb of God album came out a few weeks ago.
Yep.
Which is called Lamb of God 7, and since it's like, what is the rest of it? Sturm und Drang?
Sturm und Drang. Sturm und Drang, it's German. It just means storm and stress. It's, the record is, it's not a concept record, but most of the songs are about the way people deal with stress.
Cool. Very cool. Well, you've been through a lot of stress, so I'm sure you have a lot of experience writing for that album.
Yeah. There's a couple of tunes on there that kind of came from that I wrote while I was in prison. But other than that, I didn't write a prison record. I didn't write any, a whole bunch of stuff about what happened.
Right.
Just the two songs that I wrote while I was in prison because, we got off tour and I spent 8 months writing a 500-page book about the thing. I had zero desire to write a whole album about it after that. Yeah,
I'm sure. And you guys are actually out on tour now with Slipknot.
Yep. Yes, we are.
For the next few weeks?
Yeah, it's about an 8-week tour. We're about halfway through it. It's pretty awesome to be out with our bros. We haven't done a full tour with them since 2005. We've done a bunch of festival gigs over the years. But we haven't really hit the road with them for an extended run in, 10 years. So It's nice to be out with those guys again. It's really nice.
Nice.
I miss Paul, who's passed away regrettably.
Right.
But I don't know. I think he'd be happy they're still out there playing.
Absolutely. Now, and then you guys are heading over to Europe where you're doing some shows with Megadeth. So I guess your drummer Chris will be doing double duty for those shows.
I guess. That's what I hear.
That's impressive.
Yeah, we'll see. It might suck. Yeah, he might need to be doing some practicing. So
yeah, that's going to be some ass-kicking nights for him.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm not going to say it's going to rule yet. We'll see how it goes.
So, all right, you know what? I have this guy who's a huge fan of yours who's been on hold for like an hour waiting for you to call in. Can you talk to him real quick?
Yeah. As long as he doesn't ask me anything utterly stupid, then yeah, sure.
Okay. Josh, you're live on the air. Don't ask nothing stupid.
Oh, cool. I'll do my best.
Hello.
Oh. Hey, how's it going, man? How you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm all right. It's the end of the day off.
I hear you.
So
I gotta
what's
say, man. Oh, man. Well, I just gotta say first, man, this is definitely a pretty cool experience. I've been following your music for a while, so I dig a lot of it, man. You guys make some real deep stuff.
Well, thanks, man. Do you have any questions?
Oh, yeah, sure. I've been listening to your new album recently, and I heard the single. And, you kind of answered about what it was about with stress, but I just wanted to kind of figure out where you got some of your musical influence from on that album.
Dude, there weren't any new musical influences. We've been doing the band for 21 years. So, I mean, it's just another Lamb of God record. That's it.
Okay.
You know, I mean, nothing's different. We didn't, you know, we aren't a different band or anything. It's just what came out. We don't ever have a plan for the music or anything. It's just what happens when we get in a room and start jamming.
Oh, for sure, bro. Anytime. But yeah, man,
Cool.
and definitely wanted to point out, man, you know, you guys hit number 2 on the debut, and like a big congratulations for that. At least that's what I saw on the internet.
Yeah, well, thank you, man. You know, it's all good. You know, chart numbers and all that stuff don't really mean much to me. Like, well, it's like the real test is what happens when you get out on stage and play the songs. And so far, people are responding well, so it's pretty awesome, you know.
Oh, of course, man.
Cool. All right, Josh, thanks for calling in.
Sure, man, anytime.
All right,
Thanks,
man,
dude.
take care.
Hey, anytime. Have a good one.
All right, so 2 more questions, and I'll let you go, Randy. First one is,
Alrighty.
any plans to run for president in 2016?
Oh, God, man. You know, everybody's asking me that, and I just don't think I have the energy this time. And plus, the last time I wound up running for president, I wound up going to prison. Maybe it's an omen that I shouldn't be president, you know. So, you know, maybe I'll just sit back and make snotty commentary this time instead of getting involved in the race.
Hey, that works. That works just as good.
Okay.
And the last question, if I can just get you to cut an ID for me. This is Randy
Sure.
Blythe of Lamb of God, and you're listening to Totally Driven Radio.
All right, no problem. Hey, what's up? This is Randy Blythe of Lamb of God, and you're listening to Totally Driven Radio.
Awesome. Okay, the book.
All
Where
right.
can everybody get the book, Dark Days?
You can get it at Amazon.com. You can get it at Barnes & Noble. You can get it at Books A Million. You could go to your locally owned independent bookstore, which is what I always prefer to go get, you know, keep your money in the local economy. And
Sure.
I believe there's still some. Oh, you can go to hateware.com. My friend Jamie Josta is distributing some copies.
Oh,
That'd
cool.
be nice because he's my bro. You know, Jamie from Hatebreed, the singer of that band.
Right.
And you know, independent bookstores everywhere. Just go in and ask them. It's on a, you know, I didn't print it myself. It's on DeCapo Press, so they can just look in their database and it'll be there and order it for you.
Cool. And the new Lamb of God album, how about that one?
Yeah, I'm Amazon, iTunes, your local record store if it still exists.
Yeah, right.
You know, sadly, they're disappearing. But yeah, you can get them on, get them on, you know, wherever you get records. I think Best Buy carries it too.
Oh, cool. Very cool. Randy, I want to thank you so much. This has been great. Lots of luck with the tour, the new album, and hopefully the movie.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, man. Have a good night, and maybe Brad Pitt will be calling you soon, too.
I hope so. If not, Morgan Freeman.
There you go. Brad
All right.
Pitt with Morgan Freeman's voice.
That's right. That'd be great. That'd be perfect.
All right, Randy. Thanks again, man. Take care, and good luck with everything.
All right, bro. Take care.
You too.
Like.
All right, well, there he goes. What a story. What a friggin' story he has.
It's a crazy story, man. I don't know how, like, mentally he survived it. You know what I mean?
Right. Dude, that takes balls. I mean, not only balls, but seriously, that is a stand-up dude there to want to go back and face the trial.
Right. And he legitimately did. It wasn't like he wanted to prove his innocence. Like, he wanted answers. He wanted to give closure as much as get closure. And that's different than just trying to, like, fight for your freedom. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
He was in it for the answers, not just to quote-unquote, get away with anything. and then to go back. Like, I don't care what anybody says. Like, in his head, he was like, yeah, I had to go back. It was, like, my obligation. And that's, like, so stand-up. You know what I mean? But, like, I don't know that I would have had the balls to do that. Hell, I would have probably...
No, I wouldn't.
Yeah, I would have been in another country that didn't have extradition so quick. You know, I would have swam to Cuba. You know what I mean? Like,
oh man, that is mind blowing. Janetti's still here too. Let's get him up. How about you, Janetti? Would you have gone back and faced trial, or would you have said screw it?
Depends. I don't know. It depends on how much time I was looking at. You know.
Hell, I was looking at a week. I wouldn't go back.